It begins here with a crossing so slight that no one in the room notices, yet all heaven bears witness that you have changed kingdoms. Don't react to the person, react to the presence. This is not a program for sharpening debate or polishing replies. This is the quiet laying down of the sword that defends the self and the picking up of the sword of the Spirit that needs no defense. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. The threshold is this: we are not improving arguments. We are ending their borrowed power at the root. We are not awarding medals to one side and shame to the other. We are withdrawing our faith from appearances, our fear from noise, and our consent from the notion that words, faces, and tempers contain power. Be still and know that I am God. Not be clever, be still. Not win, no. The moment you accept that there is only one power, you have already deprived the quarrel of its oxygen. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Don't hurry this. This is not theater. It is a pivot made in the sanctuary of your own attention. You do not need an audience to cross. You do not need a speech. You need only to remember where power lives. The kingdom of God is within you. The presence is the one. Life appearing as all life. The one mind animating every mind. If this is so, and I am willing to put it on an if for your sake, then the person who agitates you is not a cause, not a power, but a surface. Withdraw your belief from the surface and stand in the depth. Don't react to the person, react to the presence. A mother sits at a kitchen table with a message flashing on her phone, sharp words from a son who is hurting. The nerves reach for a reply, for the old, quick defense. She closes her eyes, not dramatically, just a blink made holy, and breathes. No one in the house knows that the axis of the earth has shifted in that simple pause. She stops granting power to the message and gives it back to the presence. Her heart whispers, God alone is power. Thy grace is my sufficiency. She opens her eyes different, and because she is different, the whole conversation is already different before one new sentence is typed. This is the promise, and it is plain. Conflict begins to end the instant you cross from person reaction to presence response. Not after the 13th round, not when you finally convince them, in the instant of crossing. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Let this be your refrain as we go on. Don't react to the person, react to the presence. Here, the storm loses its wind. Here, grace enters and harmony ceases to be a task and begins to be a given. You know the moment. A sharp word lands like a spark on dry grass. A text lights the screen, short, clipped, and you can feel the edge in it. A face hardens across the table, and the eyes say, now we fight. The nerves ignite, the mouth follows, the hands fly to the armor of old explanations. Reflex, not realization. Noise, not inner poise. And if you trace the aftermath, you can write the same story 100 times. Escalation, injury, regret. Then the heavy hush that follows a door closed too hard. The tongue is a fire, Scripture says, and we have learned how quickly a small flame becomes a field ablaze. Now, let us be plain and let us be fair. We do not deny that friction appears. We deny that it has power. We are not playing word games with life. We are naming where power resides. The snare is not their sentence, not their tone, not even the history between you. The hook is the faith you place in the appearance, the belief that this word, this look, this posture carries causative force. That belief is the tinder. The instant you grant it authority, you fuel what you say you fear. Watch it in a hallway at work. A colleague speaks over you in the meeting. Heat rises. You interrupt back. The room divides into quiet juries. The whole week grows sore. Watch it on the road. A car cuts in. You lay on the horn. Someone gestures. Now two strangers are trading power they do not have. Watch it in the home you love. A question about money slips into accusation. The air tightens. Defense gathers its lawyers. This is the economy of person reaction. Spend grace to buy more noise. Pay out peace to purchase more fear. And the bill arrives in the evening as remorse. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, the word counsels. But how? Not by muscling the mouth into silence while the heart pounds war, not by better comebacks framed in velvet. The way out is the way in. Withdraw belief from the image and stand in the presence. And I don't mean pretending the sound doesn't exist. I mean acknowledging it while refusing it power. Reflex says they started it. Realization says there is only one power. Reflex tightens the fist. Realization opens the hand. Reflex feeds the storm. Realization looks within and hears, peace be still. Ask the one question that ends the bait. What becomes of this conflict when I no longer award power to its appearance? I am willing to put it on an if for you. If there is only one power, not two, then the loudest face is an effect without authority. And I have watched it again and again. When one in the room ceases to bow to the apparition of power, the words drop their weapons. A soft answer, not manufactured, but given, turneth away wrath. The scene remains, but it cannot command. The sound continues, but it cannot steer. This, beloved, is the unhooking of the nerves, the first mercy on the way to harmony. There is only one power. Let that be more than a line you admire. Let it be a law you honor. As long as you entertain two spirit and person, God and circumstance, truth and noise, you will be divided within yourself, and a divided consciousness is forever at the mercy of images. But when you let the heart rest in one, appearances forfeit their scepter. They can rattle and posture, but they cannot rule. All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth, the Master said. Not some power to Caesar, and some to disease, and some to tempers. If all is vested in the invisible, then what you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell are effects, not causes. I must be exact here. I do not mean human will. I do not mean bracing yourself, gritting teeth, and outstaring a problem. I do not mean personality improved or argument refined. I mean the infinite invisible presence, the I that was before Abraham and will be after today's headlines are forgotten. I mean the quiet reality in which we live and move and have our being. That I is the only causative law. The rest is picture, sound, vapor-taking shapes that our belief sustains. Take back belief, and the picture dims. Withdraw consent, and the sound loses its command. You know what a moving picture is. Light thrown through film onto a screen. The drama looks dangerous enough to make a heart race, but walk behind the screen, and there is no sword, no storm, only light and a strip of images. So, with these scenes that confront us from the seat of presence, you are behind the screen, not despising the story, not denying it appears, but knowing what it is, a projection of thought accepted as power. Turn to the light, and the film ceases to frighten. This is why the psalmist could sing, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow, not the valley of substance. Shadow cannot strike. It borrows its outline from a greater reality." Practice this in the instant you feel pushed. Do not argue with the face, the voice, or the moment. Let the lips be still, and the heart say, power is not in this voice, this face, this moment. The power is in I. And I don't mean the personal I that has a history. I mean the I that said, I and my Father are one. The sense of threat will look for a door. Do not open it with fear. Let I be the only door, and the impostor must stand outside. From then on, it isn't difficult. The same words may arrive, but your ears are not sworn to them. The same condition may show itself, but your consent is elsewhere. Honor one power and watch the hypnotism dissolve. I have seen tempers collapse into tears of relief without a lecture being given. I have watched a contract dispute end with both parties laughing, not because anyone won, but because the spell of power in paper and posture was broken. When the one is acknowledged, the many drop their pretense. This is the core revelation, and it is wonderfully practical. With one power recognized, appearances cannot command your reactions, and harmony quietly takes the field. Now let us name the shape that most often stands between presence and peace. Fear. In the kitchen when the bill is opened, fear. In the office when the email pings after hours, fear. In the headline that promises markets falling, storms forming, borders closing, fear, fear, fear. From nursery to boardroom to Senate chamber, from the mirror in the morning to the last light switched off at night, the same old whisper tries its one performance. I am power. And the world, forgetting, believes it. Fear grips the world. But hear me gently and hear me firmly. It is not your fear. Do not take possession of it, and do not let it take possession of you. Fear is a universal mesmerism, a fog that drifts through human belief. It is not a person, not a presence, not a law. It is suggestion. It is shadow. It is noise without voice unless you lend it yours. It comes wrapped in respectable costumes, prudence, concern, realism, but strip off the costume and you will always find the same powerless claim. The master looked upon disciples in a storm and said, "It is I. Be not afraid." Not "I will make you brave," but "it is I." The recognition of presence dissolves the claim. When you attach my to fear, you build it a house. When you see it as the world's fog and not your essence, you stand in the wind of spirit and watch it thin. Let us be precise. Fear is not a power. There is only one power. Fear borrows its apparent strength from the consent you grant it, from the seriousness you wrap around it. Withdraw consent. Stand still. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. If God did not give it, it has no giver. If it has no giver, it has no law. If it has no law, it has no life. You need not wrestle with it. You need not decorate it with arguments. You need not make a project of it. Smile at it. Yes, smile. Not a grin of bravado, but the quiet curve that says, "Thou hast no power." I have sat in rooms where that small, inward smile undid an atmosphere that 1,000 words had failed to move. Try it the next time a message pricks your chest or a meeting tightens your scalp. Before the reply, before the defense, let there be a pause holy because it refuses to kneel to a counterfeit. Let the heart say without sound, "Fear, you are not mine. You are not power. You are not cause. Presence is here. I and the Father are one." Feel how the charge begins to drain before a syllable leaves your lips. The scene is the same, but the plug is pulled. The storm looks for wind and finds none. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear, not because I have become larger, louder, cleverer, but because I refuse to enthrone a non-entity. Do not take sides with fear, not the fear in you, not the fear in the one before you. Withdraw the tribute of your attention. Let perfect love, which is presence itself, cast it out without struggle. You will discover, if you will be faithful in this one thing, that many a quarrel ends before it begins, not by might nor by a finer phrase, but by grace quietly dissolving the root. Fear dissolves when you refuse to personalize and empower it. And in that dissolving, harmony has room to appear. Now, let us make this very practical, very simple. So simple you cannot miss the door when the hour touches you. The practice is brief, but it is holy. Step 1. Stop, interrupt the reflex. Let silence have the first word. Do not take counsel with your nerves. Do not hire your tongue as your lawyer. Stop long enough for another kingdom to come to the fore. Be still and know that I am God. Not be frozen, but be still. Not delay, but deference to the one who is already present. In that small halt, you break the agreement with noise and invite grace to rule. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Step 2. Breathe 3 calm breaths. Nothing dramatic, nothing theatrical. Just 3. On the first breath, feel yourself drop from the circumference of the scene to the quiet center that cannot be pushed. Feel the weight of the chair, the floor under your feet, the river of life undergirding the moment. On the second breath, let the image of person, role, and story float out of the seat of power. Let them be pictures on a wall, not governors of your house. On the third breath, sense the invisible as the only atmosphere, the secret place in which you dwell. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. 3 breaths, that is all. The storm will look for wind and find none. Step 3, acknowledge, not with lips necessarily, but with the heart's inward word. Spirit, you are the only power functioning here. Thy grace is my sufficiency in all things. I and the Father are one. Let that be the scepter that governs what follows. You have shifted governments, the government shall be upon his shoulder, and so you will not legislate this moment with fear. From this seat you do not cut, you behold. The sword you bear is not steel, it is light. The sword of the Spirit, not the surgeon's knife. We don't carve people into better shapes. We behold the presence until it appears as wisdom, as timing, as a soft answer that turneth away wrath, or, when it is required, as a firm no that comes without heat. And I do not mean passivity. I mean interior authority. I do not mean letting wrong run rampant. I mean refusing to fight shadows. From this stillness, words may be given, action may be given, silence may be given, but it is given, not manufactured by will. Make this your portable sanctuary. In the car before you step out, in the hall before you knock, in the kitchen when the message pings. Stop, breathe, acknowledge. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. A brief inward turn seats you in the only place from which true response can arise. Then, and only then, speak if there is speech, move if there is movement. Not by might nor by argument, but by spirit, harmony takes the field. Set the scene plainly. An accusation comes. Same kitchen, same phone, same clipped message. You never listen. You only care when it suits you. The nerves reach for their usual script. Defend point A, explain history B, produce exhibit C. You can feel the fingers go to the holster of old phrases, but in that instant, you remember there is only one power. Stop, not a dramatic stop, just the inward hand on the brake. 3 breaths. On the first, you let the body drop from the rim to the center. On the second, you watch the costume of accuser and accused hang on a peg. They are not powers, just outfits. On the third, you acknowledge. Spirit, you are the only power functioning here. My grace is my sufficiency. I and the Father are one. And you smile inside, a quiet curve that says to the old fear, thou hast no power. Now the realization is formed without words, but it is clear enough to live by. I do not meet a person. I meet presence appearing as this moment. And I don't mean naivete. I mean fidelity to the invisible as cause. From this seat, the reply is born. Fewer words, slower tone, no countercharge. Not a performance, not a strategy, simply what grace gives. A soft answer turneth away wrath, not because softness manipulates, but because it refuses to lend wind to a storm that has none of its own. You type or you say quietly, I hear there is pain in that. I want to understand. Tell me where I missed you. No defense brief, no ledger. And if speech is not given, silence is given, alive, not cold. The atmosphere shifts. The storm leans in to find resistance and finds presence. It looks for wind, and there is none. You may hear a sigh at the other end, or a pause where the next volley was supposed to be. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. The door is kept, not by clenching, but by resting. Walk with me into the office. Same pattern. A manager says in a room full of peers, your work set us back a week. The old man rises to protest his innocence. But you stop, breathe, acknowledge one power, inward smile, the realization again, I do not meet a person, I meet presence. You answer with clean, brief truth. I see the impact. Let me correct it and support the schedule. No heat, no barbed undertow. The sentence the room expected never arrives. The Lord is at hand. Let your moderation be known unto all. And because moderation is not weakness but spirit's poise, others in the room are freed from taking sides. The weather breaks. If I hadn't watched this very reframe again and again, kitchens, conference tables, hospital corridors, I could not sit here so confidently. The same words, yes, but they fall on new soil. The ground has changed. He maketh the storm a calm, and not by arguing with the clouds. When presence leads, the sentences cannot ignite war because there is no tinder left in you to catch. There is only one power acknowledged and grace answering for you. Let it be so in the next exchange that comes to your door. Stop, breathe, acknowledge, smile, and watch the wind go out of conflict like a sail unfilling at dusk. Now that you have felt the wind die down when you refuse to furnish it, look at the next mercy that follows. Outcome. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. Not in some things when you are clever, when you are strong, but in all things. Grace is not an add-on to human management. It is the law of the kingdom operating where human management has stood aside. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Human managing seeks victory. Grace unfolds harmony. Human will arranges winners and losers. Grace confers a common blessing without taking sides. This is not poetry. It is a working principle. When you honor one power and withdraw belief from appearances, outcome ceases to be a trophy, to be grabbed, and becomes a gift to be received. Make a quiet exchange. Lay down the project to win, to correct, to be seen as right. And I don't mean indifference. I mean relinquishment of the private agenda that fears it must oversee the universe. Take up the witness posture. Watch what grace does when you stop pushing. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still means stop performing cause. See means let the invisible appear as the next wise word, the timely silence, the softened glance, the unexpected door. When the disciples asked about bread, the master spoke of lilies and sparrows and concluded, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Added, not manufactured. Given, not forced. In the moment of pressure, kitchen, office, courthouse, say within yourself, Father, I can of mine own self do nothing. Thy grace govern here. The nerves will accuse you of passivity. Smile at them and let their accusation pass like smoke. My grace is sufficient for thee, came as a word to a man who knew thorns, not to a dreamer safe from pressure. Sufficient means enough, adequate, complete. If grace is sufficiency, then your task is not to enforce an ending, but to abide until endings reveal themselves as peace. I have watched this so many times that I could not be silent about it if I tried. A family dispute drifting toward lawyers, thick with years of injury, one member crosses inward to presence, lays down the campaign to prove and holds to one, power. Before papers are filed, a phone call arrives, voice changed, stake lowered, a small opening offered. I was harsh. Can we start at the practicals? Another scene. A negotiation set to fracture, both sides armored. One soul consents to be governed by grace, not schedule. The right sentence is given short, undefended, exact, and the terms that bless both houses appear on the table as if they had been waiting there all along. No one won, yet both walked out richer. That is grace's arithmetic. Let the outcome be given. Refuse the itch to force it. Keep the 3 breaths. Hold to the eye that is one with the Father. If speech is given, let it come clean and without heat. If silence is given, let it be alive and not cold. If a firm no is given, let it be the sword of the Spirit, not the blade of pride. Watch, and you will see fruits you could not have engineered, unexpected softening, right words, or holy quiet that heals. Outcomes that bless all sides are received by grace, not manufactured by will. Let this be your confidence and your rest. Seek the kingdom first, and let grace add what no argument can supply. Do not miss this point, because here many stumble and return to the old battleground. This way is not the work of taking human sides, capital or labor, victim or villain. This is not attributing virtues to capital or to labor. This is not awarding halos to one camp and horns to the other. We are not choosing softer words for the party we prefer. We are honoring one power. If there is only one power, and I am content to put it on an if for you, then our allegiance cannot be split without splitting our peace. Refusing sides is not neutrality, it is fidelity. Fidelity to the invisible prevents collusion with visible mesmerisms. Understand compassion rightly. Compassion is not approving wrong. It is withdrawing power from it. Compassion is not calling darkness light. It is refusing to enthrone darkness as cause. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. The word instructs. Righteous judgment is not sentimental. It is spiritual, sight-seeing cause, where cause is in the infinite invisible, and letting effect take its proper place as picture, not power. We don't deny that hates appear, that sharp deals appear, that abuses appear. We deny that they have law, life, or authority. By that denial, silent, steady, we cease to feed them. Make the identity pivot where it matters, within. I refuse to see 2 powers struggling. I witness one, operating. If my eye is single, my whole body is full of light. If my eye is doubled, spirit and evil, God and error contending, then I become a partisan of shadows. From the seat of one, a firm no can be given without hostility, and a clear word without contempt. Put up thy sword, said the Master, and yet he never lacked moral clarity. The sword of the Spirit cuts clean without drawing blood. It lays bare illusion without wounding persons, firmness without hostility, clarity without contempt. That is the ethic of presence. Practice this in quiet ways that become your habit. Bless without argument. Correct without heat. When insult comes, you need not decorate it with your outrage. Bless the one before you silently, Father. Reveal thyself as peace here, and speak, if speech is given, a simple, undefended truth. When you witness exploitation in a negotiation, do not harden into an enemy. Stand in one. State the just term without edge, and refuse to collude with fear by fearing them. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. Good is not human niceness. It is grace acting as wisdom, timing, and a presence that disarms. I have watched rooms relax when one soul refused the flattery of being on the right side and chose the holy side, one power. In that atmosphere, mercy and truth are met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed each other. You will find actions are shown you, sometimes tender, sometimes firm, that bless the whole field rather than fortify a trench. Do not join the chorus of taking sides. Keep your eyes single. Let compassion be your refusal to lend power to error, your willingness to let grace reveal just action. React only to spirit, and the line that men draw through the room will fade where you stand. Now fix the practice. Make a conscious transition from dependence on the visible to reliance on the invisible, not once, not only in crisis, but as a way of being. Train the attention. Your attention is your altar. What you place upon it becomes to you a god. If you feed the senses will rule you. If you feed the invisible governs your going out and your coming in. Set your affection on things above, not by despising earth, but by restoring cause to its throne. There is only one power. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Hold an image the prophets loved. He hangeth the earth on nothing. Nothing visible holds this world in place, yet there it is steady, obedient to laws unseen. So with your poise. Let it stand without props. No prop of agreement, no prop of apology forced from another, no prop of the last headline turning kind. I don't mean trusting people to behave, I mean trusting presence to govern. When your equilibrium looks for crutches, smile and remember the government is upon his shoulder. Let your soul hang upon nothing visible, and you will find you do not sway when the porch shakes. How to train this? Brief daily sits in felt presence. Enter your closet, close the door of senses, and be still. 2 minutes in the morning before a word is spoken. 2 at midday when the machine is loudest. 2 at night when lamps dim. Sit, breathe, and acknowledge. Spirit, you are the only power. Thy grace is my sufficiency. I and the Father are one. Wait until the hush is more than an idea, until it is a felt atmosphere, a living warmth, a quiet pressure from within. And I don't mean hunting sensations. I mean abiding until awareness, not emotion, assures you that you are seated where storms cannot enter. Carry it into conversation. Before you answer, glance in, not with the eyes, but with the heart. Let a fragment of that morning hush touch your tongue. Let speech come from the sanctuary, not the street. If nothing is given, do not manufacture. If a word is given, it will be simple, undefended, enough. Let your words be few, not as austerity, but as trust. A trained attention does not chase faces. It abides in eye. Then faces change. I have watched this discipline turn offices into chapels. A manager throws a hard sentence. One soul remembers the invisible. The reply comes clean and without heat. The room that was bracing for a storm relaxes without quite knowing why. I have seen it in courts, in kitchens, on hospital wards, attention anchored within, turbulence without, and yet no sway. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee, stayed, trained, returned, kept. Do not wait for emergencies to learn this balance. Practice when the house is quiet, so that when the wind rises, you are already on the rock. From then on, it isn't difficult. The visible may flicker, praise 1 hour, blame the next, but you are no longer hired by its weather. Inner certainty steadies the tongue, the hand stays open, the atmosphere around you becomes less combustible. Attention trained on the invisible makes you unshakable amid visible turbulence, and in that unshakableness, grace finds easy pathways to appear. Shall we try it the old way, just once more, sharpen the logic, raise the volume, quicken the comeback, assemble allies, and secure the victory by superior noise? Is that the remedy? Is more material force the healing power we have lacked? The answer is no. The wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. Not now, not then, not ever. A louder trumpet does not make a truer note. A stronger fist does not open a heart, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. If the cause of harmony is the invisible, then every additional ounce of human pressure multiplies resistance. It does not cure, it compounds. You have seen the physics of it. Push, and an equal push greets you. Add wood, and flame leaps higher. Where no wood is, the fire goeth out. Escalation is fuel. Sarcasm is fuel. The last word is fuel. Even perfect logic, when animated by fear, is tinder hidden under silk. Wars of words won't do it. Diplomacy of tempers won't do it. We are far beyond the possibility of settling the world's problems or the kitchen's problems by any human mode or means. Only realization dissolves the root. Realization is the withdrawal of belief from appearances and the placing of trust where trust belongs, in one power. When the wind stops, the fire dies for lack of breath. Walk with me through rooms, you know. In the household, a charge lands hard, you never listen. You marshal the brief, date stamped, airtight. You could win the point, but winning the point loses the peace. The answer is no. Stop. 3 breaths. Acknowledge 1. Let the soft answer, not strategy, but given speech, turn away wrath. I have watched voices that were mounting to a shout fall to human tone because one soul would not trade in the market of bigger arguments. In the team meeting, blame seeks a chair and points at you. The old habit reaches for counterblame, proof, allies. The answer is no. Withdraw fuel. Stand in presence and say the clean, brief truth. I see the impact. I'll repair it. No edge. The room looks for a fight and finds none. Heat goes out as from an opened window at dusk. In a negotiation, posture rises. Numbers slam like doors. Your chest tightens. Your wit loads. The answer is no. Let clarity be given without heat. Let timing be governed by grace. I have seen terms appear that bless both sides, not because one dazzled the other, but because the spell of power in force was broken. Take this as your inward law. Withdraw fuel. Let grace govern. Put up thy sword, not the sword of the Spirit, but the sword of pride. Bear instead the sword of the Spirit, which cuts illusion without wounding persons. Be still and know that I am God. Stand still and see. You will watch hostility collapse, not because you crushed it, but because you refuse to feed it. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. Escalation is not remedy. The answer is no. Only realization 1. Power honored, appearances disarmed, dissolves the root of conflict and lets harmony quietly come into view. Let us put handles on this, small enough to carry into the next room. Tiny obediences, silent micro-practices, not drama, not display, just brief movements that change the place you are speaking from. Small, silent moves change the source you speak from, and so they change outcomes, for out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaketh. If we alter the abundance within, the speech without is naturally different. First, the 60-second sanctuary, eyes open, attention inward. No one need know. Wherever you stand, the kitchen, the corridor, the conference table, take 60 seconds and descend to the room within the room. One phrase will do. Only one is acting here. Say it inwardly as you breathe. Only one is acting here. Be still and know that I am God. Not be frozen, be governed. Let the shoulders drop, the jaw unclench. Feel the chair, the floor, the breath, and then the deeper fact. The Lord is at hand. 1 minute, 60 heartbeats to shift governments. In that minute, you cease producing outcomes and you consent to grace. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. Second, the name eraser. Before the tongue rises, edit the inner script where your thought says he is impossible, she is unreasonable. Replace the pronoun with presence. Presence is appearing as this cry. Presence governs this meeting. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. I don't mean approving wrong. I mean refusing to enthrone personality as cause. When the name is erased, the hook is erased. You will find your words come out cleaner, briefer, because you are speaking to presence, about presence, not arguing with a mask. Third, the smile at it move. A literal, slight smile, not a smirk, not superiority, just the quiet curve that says, to fear's theater, thou hast no power. Try it when the message stings, when the voice sharpens across the table. It is a physical sacrament of an inner fact. Perfect love casteth out fear. The smile is love's preface. I have watched entire rooms soften because one person remembered to smile inwardly at the storm, and the storm, finding no wind, fell of itself. Fourth, a word fast. Let 3 breaths pass before your first sentence. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. 3 breaths, and then speak if speech is given. He that believeth shall not make haste. This is not withholding. This is obeying the kingdom's tempo. In those breaths, the sword of the Spirit is placed in your hand, and you will not need the dagger of wit. Finally, the evening review. 5 quiet minutes before the light is out. Ask gently, without scolding, where today did I react to person? Where did I respond to presence? Write 1 line if it helps. Give thanks where grace governed. Where you missed it, lay it down without blame. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and preview tomorrow's vow. React only to spirit. Pray without ceasing is not chatter. It is these small returns, morning to night, that keep the mind stayed. I could not urge this if I had not watched it bear fruit in homes and offices across years, vocabulary softened, timing redeemed, outcomes given that no argument could have engineered. Do these little things faithfully, and you will find the weather within changes first. Then signs follow. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. By their fruits ye shall know them, not by your explanations of method, not by your intentions, but by the quiet outward harmonies that appear where strain once lived. These are not wages earned by spiritual effort. They are gifts added when government changes hands. These signs shall follow them that believe. Follow, notice the order. You seek the kingdom, the signs follow. You do not chase them, you do not arrange them. They arrive often to your surprise and sometimes to your embarrassment, because you cannot point to the clever argument that did it. You cannot, because grace did it. You will see de-escalations that feel unearned. A phone call that always rose to a boil turns in mid-sentence to human tone. A meeting that had already braced for battle breathes, and the next agenda item slides forward without a skirmish. You did not outthink the storm. You refused to furnish it wind. Where no wood is, the fire goeth out. One power was honored. Appearances lost their borrowed authority. That is all. The room does not know why it is calmer. You do. The presence, which the senses cannot see, became the new atmosphere, and arguments suffocated for lack of air. You will notice clarity without sting. Truth, when given by grace, arrives as bread, not as a stone, as a hand on the shoulder, not a finger in the chest. The same sentence that sounded like judgment last month now sounds like help, speaking the truth in love. And I don't mean human niceness. I mean the current of the invisible carrying your word so that it can be received. I have watched faces open at the very syllable that once shut them, not because you sanded off the edges, but because fear wasn't driving it. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. Kept hearts speak differently. You will conduct fewer postmortems. When you don't inflame, there is less to fix. The long autopsy of what you should have said or shouldn't have said loses its audience. Sleep returns. The day is not filled with drafting speeches to deliver in imaginary courtrooms. He that believeth shall not make haste. Haste subsides because there is nothing to outrun. You left no fire behind you. You will carry a quiet authority. Others sense safety and settle more quickly. They do not know why they speak straighter when you enter, why voices lower, why the pace becomes sane. But they do. The government is upon his shoulder. That government is felt. You stop being a thermometer registering every fever and become a thermostat holding the room to peace without announcement. People will find themselves checking with you, not to recruit you to their side, but to touch the stillness that lets them think. Let your moderation be known unto all men. The Lord is at hand. And there is a measurable arc. The intervals between conflicts lengthen. Patterns that felt inevitable grow sporadic, then rare, then retire. Harmony, once an event, becomes the normal weather. You will discover that goodness and mercy do indeed follow me all the days of my life, not as reward for managing well, but as the natural wake of a life steered by one. If I hadn't witnessed this across years, kitchens and conference rooms, hospital corridors and court mediations, I couldn't sit here so confidently. I am willing to put it on an if for you. If there is only one power, and if you honor it, then signs follow. Responding from presence yields outward harmonies that human effort could not engineer, not by might, not by your sharpened wit, but by spirit. Rooms become gentle, words land where they can heal, and peace takes root where you stand. Carry this now from the small room to the large hall. The pressure that rattles plates on the kitchen table is the same mesmerism that tightens jaws around a board table and sends delegations home from capitals empty-handed. Fear grips the world, fear of loss, fear of face, fear of not enough, and it parades as policy, as posture, as the logic of inevitability. But it is one fear, not many powers. There is only one power. The law that quiets the nursery, quiets the nation when it is honored. The presence that stills a family quarrel can still a chamber, because cause is not in geography or magnitude. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. From end to end, the one acts as one. Do not mistake this for wish thinking. We do not deny that tempers flare, that treacheries appear, that interests collide. We deny that these appearances have law to outlast realization. Human plans alone fail. Spiritual consciousness heals. Wars won't do it. Louder speeches won't do it. A fresh resolution without a fresh realization only moves pieces on the same board, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. When the wind that feeds the flame is withdrawn, when one power is honored, fires that seemed unquenchable falter of themselves. This is not utopia, it is practice. One with God proves a majority. If that sounds grand, try it where you are and watch the radius expand. In a fractious staff meeting, one soul seated in presence answers without heat. The room depressurizes and finds human tone. In a labor negotiation braced for rupture, one practitioner refuses sides and holds to one. Terms appear that bless all parties. Extend the circle. City councils that were rehearsing outrage. Discover a path of order because one watcher prayed in silence before the gavel fell. Even among diplomats who distrust each other's accents, a single consciousness, without sermon, without fanfare, can be the invisible ballast. The government is upon his shoulder. Feel that shoulder, and you steady not only yourself but the craft that carries many. How then shall we act? Practice silently and let results speak. Pray for kings and for all that are in authority, not by advising them in absentia, but by refusing to enthrone appearances as cause. Enter boardrooms and council chambers as you enter the kitchen. 3 breaths, 1 power, acknowledged, inward smile that says to fear, thou hast no power. Do not preach method, do not advertise grace, abide, and when speech is given, let it be clean and brief. When silence is given, let it be alive. Signs will follow. Blessed are the peacemakers, and I don't mean the chairpersons who win on points. I mean those who carry a presence that dissolves the contest. From table to treaty, from hallway to parliament, the law is one because the power is one. Make the transition from visible dependence to invisible reliance at every scale you touch. React only to spirit, and you will find that harmony, which seemed too modest for the kitchen and too vast for the nations, is of one piece added, not manufactured, where one is honored as all. Take this further inward, deeper than method, deeper than momentary calm, into the soil itself. The master spoke of ground that was stony, thorny, or good. Seed was the same, harvest differed by soil. So with us, presence is the seed, consciousness is the earth. If the ground is rocky with fear, thorned with self-justifying thoughts, shallow with hurry, the word of peace springs up and withers in the noon heat. But if you will consent to be good, ground softened by humility, cleared by truth, watered by prayer, the same seed brings forth 30, 60, 100-fold. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. This is the identity shift. From reactive patient, needing someone to fix every storm, to quiet practitioner, one who practices. A practitioner is not a title, it is a posture. You live as fertile soil. You turn to the Spirit for everything. You abide until the inner atmosphere is hospitable to grace. Then, when words or winds arrive, they find you already governed. You do not manage conflict, you cultivate consciousness that makes conflict improbable. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts, not as a visitor, but as the host of the house. Take the student's path without embarrassment. Study, prayer, meditation, not as escape, never that, but as preparation. Thy word have I hid in mine heart, not to quote better, but to live steadier. Spend time with the things above, in actual reading, in silent sitting, in the gentle repetition of truth until it becomes awareness. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Renewing is daily rain on the soil. The day that begins with even 5 minutes of consecrated quiet carries a different weather. The thoughts that used to gallop now walk. The barbs that used to pierce now fall dull at your feet. The same emails arrive. The ground has changed. Do not turn this into a clever technique for winning debates. That is the old soil in a new pot. We are not seeking the upper hand. We are giving up hands altogether and letting grace govern. Not by might, nor by power. If you study in order to disarm your opponent, You remain a partisan of appearances. Study to be still. Pray to be transparent. Meditate to remember I and the Father are one. Then speech, if given, will be bread, not a stone. The power is in I, the I of spiritual identity, the I that is one with the Father, not in their face or your phrase. All power is within ourselves. Nothing from without can enter to defile when the within is established in one. Say it quietly until it is felt. The power is in I, not in their temper, not in my argument. When this becomes bone and breath, you will notice a trajectory from needing peace to carrying peace. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Carried peace is not fragile. It does not plead for agreement. It emanates as a lamp does, without effort, without announcement. I have witnessed this. Souls who once lived as patients of the world, always recovering from the last quarrel, became practitioners of presence. The quarrels came less often, stayed less long, and found less fuel. The soil changed. Create in me a clean heart, O God, was answered not by altered neighbors first, but by altered ground. Then, almost shyly, signs followed. Fewer fires to put out, because fewer sparks found tinder. Cultivate the soil. Abide as good ground. React only to spirit, and you will discover that harmony is native where you stand, because the seed has found earth that can bear it. If I hadn't witnessed this for years in kitchens and corridors, in court antechambers and boardrooms, I could not sit here so calmly and say what I am saying. I am not asking you to believe a philosophy. I am reporting what presence does when it is honored. God's grace is our sufficiency. There is only one power, and when that one power is given the government, appearances that had been swelling with borrowed importance deflate like sails when the wind falls. Be still and know that I am God. I remember a pair of partners who had ceased speech except in fragments thrown like stones. They sat on opposite ends of a sofa as if a river ran between them. The old habit would have had us weigh sides, apportion blame, tidy the record. We did not. We waited. We turned inward together. 3 breaths, a quiet acknowledgement. Only one is acting here. The first sentences were still defensive, but the hook had less barb. Then a silence came, not of exhaustion, but of presence. One of them, uncoached, said, I am willing to hear. The other, unprovoked, answered without weapon. I did not engineer that. A soft answer turneth away wrath. When sides dissolved in our hearts, grace had room to act. What had been a contest became a conversation, a pathliness where a dead end had seemed certain. I have watched a hostile meeting, numbers used as cudgels, histories unsheathed like knives. The air crackled. One soul, just one, kept the inner altar lit. Only one is acting here. When his turn came, he spoke one clean sentence without edge. I am here to find what serves the whole. It was not a strategy, it was a state. The room did not applaud, it exhaled. Where no wood is, the fire goeth out. A provision appeared that neither camp had drafted, and both recognized as fair, not because the math had changed, but because the spirit had. Mercy and truth met, righteousness and peace kissed each other. I think of a courthouse hallway in which a custody case had heated beyond pleading. Counselors, papers, faces gray with fear. One grandmother stood aside, shut her eyes for a breath, and smiled not at the pain, but at fear's theater. Thou hast no power. She went back into the room and asked a question no one had thought to ask. A simple human question that shifted the center from winning to blessing the child. The tone fell from harangue to human. Put up thy sword. The sword of the Spirit did the cutting that day, and it cut illusion, not persons. The common denominator? The instant someone ceased taking sides and withdrew belief from appearances as power, the atmosphere changed. When one was honored, many lost their claim. Not bigger arguments, not superior wit, presence, God's grace acting as sufficiency, as wisdom, as timing. I am willing to put it on an if for you. If you will practice even a little, even awkwardly, you will see. Don't take my word. Let demonstration be your teacher. Prove me now herewith. Taste and see. React only to spirit. Refuse the flattery of sides. Give grace a little room. Then watch in the same rooms that knew your temper, conflict, transmute before your eyes, not by your might, not by your power, but by his spirit. Now we seal this, not with fanfare, but with a vow that is as quiet as breath and as steady as dawn. Today I will not react to persons, I will respond to presence. Let that be your morning sentence before the feet touch the floor. Set your affection on things above. Say within yourself, I and the Father are one. God's grace is my sufficiency. There is only one power. Then walk from that altar into the nearest room. Do not pick up the armor of yesterday. Put up thy sword. Bear only the sword of the Spirit, which is the word felt, not the word hurled. Be still and know that I am God. Keep the vow at midday when the heat rises. The text that stings, the tone that hooks. Smile inwardly and say, thou hast no power, not a smirk, not a superiority, the quiet smile that bears witness to one. Only one is acting here. Let 3 breaths return you to the sanctuary. React only to spirit. He that believeth shall not make haste. Answer from presence or do not answer. Either way you are governed, and governance is half the healing. In the evening, before the lamp is out, renew the pledge with gratitude for the inches gained. Today I practiced. Tomorrow I will practice again. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Receive the benediction that underwrites the vow. The presence of the gentle Christ within is sufficient to calm the storms of life. Sufficient not for some day, but for this hour's weather. When the wind howls, hear the inner peace. Be still. When the sea remembers who rules it, the waves forget how to rise. He maketh the storm a calm, so that the waves thereof are still. You are not begging for a miracle. You are consenting to government. The government is upon his shoulder. Let the heart hang on nothing visible and feel the invisible bear the weight. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Carry this vow in silence. Don't preach it. Don't make a badge of it. Practice, and let peace betray your secret. Let your light so shine, light shines, it does not announce. If asked for the reason of the calm that keeps you, speak simply and without method. But do not try to teach presence by argument. Presence teaches by presence, and signs follow them that believe. Withdraw your attention from personalities, from causes that clamor for sides, from the theater of fear. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Where no wood is, the fire goeth out. Refuse to furnish fuel, watch flames tire and sleep. So go now with a simple charge. Live through the Spirit now. Turn to the Spirit for everything. React only to the Spirit. Make this your daily vow and keep it where vows have power in the heart's quiet. The end of conflict begins here at the spring where reactions rise. Keep the inner altar lit. Carry the small smile that says to panic and pride alike, thou hast no power. And walk in the assurance that grace will meet you at every door. The Lord is at hand. Peace be unto you.